When do you want to talk about the list of movies?
At the end?
At the end, okay. All right, push record.
Yep.
All right. You guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Let's podcast.
Let's podcast. What if the cast of Waiting for Guffman tried to make an action thriller? We watched the Vernonia Incident, which means it's time for another Portland at the Movies. Hello and welcome to another episode of Portland at the Movies. My name is Todd Workoven, and joining me, as always, is Mark Middleton. How are you, Mark?
I'm well. I'm really well.
Good, good. And, of course, Brian, the Unipiper Kid. How are you, Brian? Resplendent in not just a Hawaiian shirt, but that is a Goonies Hawaiian shirt. And I didn't notice it at first, but then I looked, and there's Chunk lifting up his version of that Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, this is my new Portland at the Movies shirt. It is a replica of Chunk's shirt from the Goonies, but then it's got little chunks hidden in the print.
It does, and I'm noticing too, it has the clacking teeth that saves Data from falling on top of the spikes. Oh, there's a skull there.
Yeah, it's really subtle.
Nice. Well done. That's
awesome.
going to be hard not to stare at for the rest of the time.
My eyes are up here.
You're So this month we watched a movie called The Vernonia Incident. And Vernonia is a town that's kind of in between here and Astoria if you go diagonally. It's not on Highway 30.
You can't get there from here.
Oh, you can't?
No, I say that because
Oh.
I was being a little facetious,
Sorry.
Todd.
You can't.
You really can't. Maybe you shouldn't.
Maybe
but...
you shouldn't.
Yeah, there's two ways to get to Astoria, 30 and 26.
Yeah.
And then it's like dead
In between.
center
And
between.
I ended up taking, a couple years ago, I took it while I was in Astoria and took that back kind of as a scenic route. They just repaved that whole, it's just a little 2-lane highway that goes in between, and Vernonia's right in the middle, a little small town, and it's a beautiful drive, and they made a movie in 1989. Mark, do you want to tell us about this movie?
I love this movie. So
I did too.
it is a homegrown movie, made in 1988 or 1989, and it is a cops and robbers, shoot 'em up, lots of cars catching on fire and chases.
So many cars
and-
that in one cut went from being on the road fine to being flipped down a hill, and then in the next cut completely on fire.
There's a lot of flammable vehicles in Vernonia, and then militia and helicopters and local actors who are totally untrained, and
Every single person in this movie was untrained local actor.
Yeah, and it's
How high a ridge I could not tell. Oh, I can finally use the.
I just got the Waiting for Guffman reference at
Yeah.
the beginning of the show.
I can finally use the.
precisely. Yeah, so it's technically it's not, wouldn't be classified as like a mainstream.
It's technically fairly incompetent on
It's-
almost every level.
So
it's terrible.
It's like
awesome.
Waiting for Guffman, directed by Tommy Wiseau in the middle of the Oregon wilderness.
There you go. That is a perfect description because it is written, produced, and directed by a man named Ray Etheridge.
That's how you know it's going to be good.
And he was also the director of photography. He was the chief editor, and it was a family affair because the executive producers is someone named Emma, and I didn't get an old man's name, but Etheridge.
I believe those are his parents.
Those are his
Yeah.
parents who appear in the movie.
And she has a speaking line.
Yeah, she's
Yes.
sweeping the porch at
Yep.
the beginning. So it is a and his sister is also in it in this bar scene
Oh, she
that
the dancing
blew
girl?
my yes.
Yes.
So we cut to the bar. This is way ahead of the movie.
I didn't remember.
But it's just like a pool hall, like a small little bar, and there is a woman dressed in a sequin blazer that looks like salt and pepper, and she's just dancing in the middle of this pool hall with no one else. And then apparently that's his sister.
I
and
saw that credit at the end of the film, and then I was like, I did not remember a dancing
Oh,
girl
I
in
did
this
because
movie.
I wrote
What the
one
hell's up
lady
with
dancing with a sequin blazer. Yeah, her name is Zonia Etheridge. She was the assistant director and the production manager for this film.
caterer
And-
and his
So
driver?
I also believe that it was Ray's parents who owned the mini mart in the movie.
Oh, okay. Was the mini mart the place that got robbed? Or was that
No,
the
I
grocery
think
store?
that was the grocery store.
Okay,
So the
the
mini
mini
mart
mart
was the gas
the
station,
gas station.
at the very
Okay.
beginning.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about you know a little bit more about the actual Vernonia.
Yeah, so I've been to Vernonia a couple times. We were actually looking. There's a really interesting old a mill that is been it's ruins now, but we were actually looking at it for our wedding location
Yeah.
in Vernonia, and it's a tiny town in a beautiful little area. It's got a nice little lake in the park, and
And it literally has like two
and
stop
so-
signs, and that's about it.
yeah, and looking through, so I did a lot of Google Maps comparisons with this movie filmed in 1989 versus today, and almost everything that I looked for, I was able to find.
Oh, nice.
And so the mini mart's still there, the market where the robbery happens is
Yeah,
still
by the
there.
time most people-
bridges and
By the time most people hear this, you can go to portlandatthemovies.com/map, and those will be listed on the map, and you can see what they look like back then and now.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
and
I did
not
try
much
to
has
go
changed.
there. The one time I drove through there was when you told me about that old mill that has a bunch of
Yeah.
which today I found out Green Day filmed a video in that part of it was in Vernonia, part of it's on the coast,
Oh.
but Green Day never appears in Vernonia. So that seems
Huh.
way more random than somehow Green Day being themselves in Vernonia. Like why?
So it was just shots of
There
the
were
mill?
some shots of the inside the mill, and there was all trees inside it, and graffiti
that's
on the
that
wall.
mill?
And it's that mill. Yeah, because you see,
And
and
now
then you
we
see
have to get
the
married
Oregon
there.
coast, Green Day. So yeah, that was completely random too. So just a tiny
Huh.
little town.
So my history with this film, I actually saw it a number of years ago. The first time I saw it, I went. It was when Sarah, my wife, was working for the summer in Astoria, and so I would go out there on the weekends and visit her. And they have this wonderful little video store in Astoria. It's still open.
Oh, cool.
And it's not like Movie Madness where they're like trying to preserve video.
Right.
It's just literally a video store that is still open.
That has been preserved in
Yeah.
amber.
Exactly. And it must be the salt air or something. But they had a little tiny section locally filmed. It was like 4 films or something. It was like Kindergarten Cop, Free Willy, The Goonies, and the Vernonia Incident. And obviously, that was the one I was like, what is this? And so I rented it and just fell in love with it. Remember really enjoying it at the time. But then, when I told Sarah that we were reviewing it again, and she goes, oh, all I remember is people in cars.
She remembered correctly. So yeah, there was a couple locations. The gas station and the post office was in there. The
Yep.
grocery store, and the bridge. The bridge that's
The bridge
there.
is there, yeah. There's a lot of versions of this movie, and there's actually a documentary of the making of this movie that we had access to as well. So, Brian, your original viewing was kind of the made for the public cut, and since then there's a extended unedited, not unedited, but an extended cut.
It just feels that way.
Yeah.
Feels
So did you guys
unedited.
watch? I didn't watch. I only watched the 56-minute version.
Oh, you did not watch
Oh,
it?
I
not
watched
watch
the
the
long.
extended
I don't know what the
version.
difference is.
I don't know
And I
either.
watched both.
I
So
guess I would
I-
guess more driving.
I can tell you, we'll get into
Okay.
the
Okay, well, why don't
differences.
you? Do you want to take us through since you're the most familiar with this movie?
Okay, well, let me tell you. Let's talk about the name first of all.
Yeah.
Throughout all of production, up until the initial video release, it was released straight to VHS video stores. It did not have a theatrical release.
It was shot on film.
It was shot on most of it.
Okay.
You would not know that some of it was not shot on film because you did not watch the long uncut version, in which there were several scenes shot on videotape. But we'll get into that.
Okay.
So the title of the movie, it was called The Vernonia Incident upon initial release, and even in the making of, they show a news segment from K2 News during the filming of it, and they call it The Vernonia Incident.
Now, did you, before we move on from there, in that K2 segment, did you see Jeff Gianola?
Oh, yes, I did.
I didn't notice him. Mark pointed that out. A young Jeff Gianola making his second appearance in Portland at the movies.
Right.
Of course, from the Hunted movie was the first
Oh,
one.
right.
But this time not in the movie.
Right.
Right.
Referencing the movie. Yeah.
So anyways, the movie, when it was shortened from an hour and a half to 56 minutes, was also retitled to Revenge of the Rednecks.
So it did start out long and get cut down. It
Yes.
wasn't padded out after it found life on
Right.
video. Oh,
And
okay.
after having watched both versions, I can tell you, so when rewatching it, I first watched Mark's uncut version, and I was like, wow, this did not hold up to my memory. Like, maybe I was drunk or something because I'm not enjoying this. And then just before recording, I finished watching the 56-minute version again, and it is what the film needs. It should not be more than 56 minutes.
Yeah.
It's
And it was a long 56 minutes. Like, I still felt like I was checking my watch some of that time.
Right. Well, you should go watch the other one and see what long really is time. Anyways, over the course, this is another tie, I think, to Tommy Wiseau. The movie, I can't tell if it's supposed to be satire or not. In terms of like, how does the director feel towards the message of the mob mentality?
Yeah.
My take is that when he originally filmed it, there was no satire element. It was just straight up, he thought that what the people were doing was right, and that,
Oh, totally.
yeah. And I think over the years, he's tried to work in and use the Tommy, like, oh, it was always a dark comedy, and say, oh, it's satire, because the name,
Really?
as the name has changed, it's gotten progressively more, like, focused
satirical.
on... Yeah. So let me read the list of names of this film over the years. So initially, the Vernonia Incident, first changed to Revenge of the Rednecks, then Lynch Mob Vigilantes, then Redneck Revenge, then Redneck Country Justice, and then finally Redneck Revenge Country Justice in Oregon.
What? I had no idea.
With a specific address.
Yes.
547
Vernonia
Avenue. That's amazing. Now, I wonder if those changes, like, movies like this, and especially, and you guys will talk a little bit more about this later, the rest of his oeuvre of films, he's made a lot of them. A lot of these, especially the ones from the 80s, get sold from one distribution company to the next to put them into, like, 18 horror movies on one DVD. And I wonder if that was just so they can say, oh, this people wouldn't recognize it's the same old garbage that they've been buying.
Now, I'm sure some of those titles may stem from foreign releases.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, in the making of, they did mention that it had been dubbed in multiple languages and distributed worldwide.
Yeah.
The poor world.
So before we get into the movie itself, let's talk a little bit more about Ray Etheridge,
Yes,
because I feel like in order to fully understand this movie and fully appreciate this movie, you really have to understand the man.
I feel like by the end of this, we're going to have a picture of Ray Etheridge on the wall as the honorary fourth member of Portland at the movies.
Because I believe he has earned it. So the key to unlocking this film, Ray Etheridge, he worked actually for K2 News for 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
As a cameraman, and he had his background sort of in TV and PBS, and he did some stuff. But after filming this movie, this was a huge undertaking. I can't tell if it was $67,000 was the budget of the movie or $300,000.
So yeah,
both have been reported.
Both have been reported. Yeah, I heard the $300,000.
Both are shocking. Wow.
But I think that they
needed that much gas money to drive around the forest for 45 minutes of the 50-minute film.
You have to remember that Vernonia, at this time and still today, it is a small town.
Yeah.
So when a production like this comes to town, it is like everyone is involved. And on his website, there's currently a Ray calls it the official fan site of the Vernonia Incident, which is kind of funny.
Wow.
Um, he claims, and he has a write-up about the film, that they auditioned over 200 locals and I think casted 82.
This was, we talk about in every episode how the extras in a lot of these movies are just bonkers insane, and this was, the whole movie was filled with bonkers insane extras. All of the posse are like conservatively 95 years old.
So they would have been bonkers enough by themselves, but then also I learned by reading the website there was a quote-unquote problem with the audio recording during filming, and the entire thing had to be ADR'd in Los Angeles with hired actors.
That was driving me insane. And it's funny because you can see the boom mic in several of the shots. And I'm like, what are they using that mic for? There's no sound from this scene. And I thought, yeah, it must have been destroyed, because there are times where I had to rewind because there's a conversation between three people happening that are all the same voice, and it's done off screen, and it is, half of my notes are...
Todd, can you pull up a scene? Let's give the audience an example of this. 10 minutes and 50 seconds is a great example. So half of...
Is that when the cop goes?
It is.
I love that moment.
I did, yes. I had, this cop's voice is unbelievable. Okay, 10 minutes and what?
So if you pay 10 minutes and 50 seconds, maybe start slightly before that. So half of the ADR actors have this, like, it sounds like they're in a submarine recording their dialogue. Everything echoes, and it is so dramatic of an echo that I don't think it was accidental. I think it was, like, intentional.
Yeah.
Like, they wanted this line.
And then as I was writing down how the lack of ambient noise was driving me insane, and then a scene came up where it was no ambient noise except a very loud ticking clock in the background, and I thought I was going to go crazy. Okay, so here's a little bit, and I think this might have some of the town folk in it too, but we'll see if we can hear the cop. I think this is the right spot. And this music. Just relentless the whole movie. Oh no, that's the cop getting shot. Sorry.
I think the music is really one of the cast members.
It is. It has character and personality all into itself.
Let's see if this is closer. They already shot him. The old man was trying to give him CPR at that point.
Did you see how he was performing CPR?
Badly.
It was push, 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 pound, pound, pound.
All right, I think it's not good. You can't tell the music is always the same. Get back!
Oh, that wasn't.
That wasn't the one that you were. Oh, should I try our introduction to the cop?
I think it might have been even before that. It's when
the cop makes his first announcement to freeze or stop, or
it's getting past this exciting robbery sequence.
The voices sound like they're taken from a beat 'em up video game from the 80s.
Finish him. All right.
Exactly.
That's the robbers.
There it is.
Freeze.
Freeze.
But you can even hear in this, I mean, it's just, and that poor old man totters out of the store with his gun. I was so afraid for him. He could barely walk, and he's waving a gun around in public.
Oh, did you, apparently I was the only one that read the website. Is that true?
Yeah, I didn't know. I don't know how I missed it.
Okay, I'm going to find it.
I just sort of figured this was like a one-shot thing for like the town comes together, and like this is the one thing the guy did. But his IMDb page has dozens and dozens of movies that he's been putting out since this. It's crazy.
Okay, this is from the official fan website. There's an entry called Guns and Ammunition. Actors were allowed to use their own guns in the film. What?
They mentioned that in the behind-the-scenes thing.
Yeah.
The cop was like, and the third day, he just brought his dad's .45 revolver. And it's like, oh my gosh.
They brought it into the restaurant that they were eating in, and like, what?
That drove me crazy too, because they did have blanks in a lot of them, but there was tons of these big, huge Bonnie and Clyde shootouts where this mob of geriatric people holding rifles. There's no muzzle flash. There's no kick. They're just standing there, and there's bad gunshot noises added in, and those were like half the gunfights. It's ridiculous. The first thing, and before we get a little more into it, watching a movie like this makes you realize making a movie is really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really hard.
So they said that the script took a year.
A year to make.
The planning was 8 or 9 months. They shot in 12 days, something like that.
12 days of filming.
12 days of filming.
I really think I could have written this script myself in like 2 weeks.
It's,
Like, there's not a lot going on in
There's
the script
nothing
department.
happening.
There's a lot of yes, all right, woohoos.
Yeah, and it's all badly ADR. They should have come up with an alternate story in between when they filmed it and had to re-record everything else.
Yeah.
I even wrote it down in the credits. It's Future Post in Burbank, California. So I would never ever get my ADR done there if you are making a movie.
I just realized something, Todd. These timestamps that I'm giving you are all from the extended cut.
Yes, I noticed that on one of them, so it's a little bit off. But,
so if we can go to a minute before that last scene, while we're on the ADR kick, I have a question to ask, and it deals with one of the main bad guys.
Is this during the robbery? Is it about a minute before this?
I believe so. Try like 9:45.
My time or your time? I'm in 7:22, and that's.
Do you have the extended cut?
I don't.
So much for my timestamps.
Well,
it's only going to get worse as it goes
It'll
on.
be fine. If we just figure out what the time difference is. What was the last...
It's going to change because, like, throughout the movie they add scenes. It's not just all at the beginning.
Well, what did they add to this movie? Let's ask that.
Okay, so the two versions of the movie, the major differences. The biggest single difference is that there's actually an added scene in the shorter version. And it is a very pivotal scene because it explains the entire second half of the movie. It sets it up and lets you know what is happening.
oh, thank God, because the second half of the movie was so confusing to me.
Yes.
And I only watched the extended cut, and from the moment of the car wash on, like
that is exactly the moment where the scene was inserted. And I'm sure what happened was there was a new distributor that got a hold of this film, and they're like, this film is a mess, we're going to do something with it. And so they shortened it by a half hour, and they added the scene so people would know what the hell was going on for the second half.
What scene was it? Was it one of them where it was just a shot of a tape recorder with someone reading like a minute and a half of, here's what's happened?
Yes, that is what they added. So, right in the middle of the film, when we're sort of transitioning from the first half to the second half of the movie, the bad guys are, at this point, shacked up in a house, and they have 3 hostages, and they need to somehow escape the house. Well, the one bad guy calls his brother to tell his brother that, like, you need to come get us. And in the extended cut, you see them talking, and then they, like, hard cut, and we're just following these new characters, and you don't know, like,
who they are, where they're coming from, what, like, and then they steal a car, and then they know where to go with this helicopter, and they're like,
my favorite is when
any of this happen? Like, what?
They hijack a helicopter and force a man who does not know how to fly a helicopter to fly them.
But yet he was sitting in the helicopter already, so it's like, why would a man who doesn't know how to fly a helicopter be sitting in a helicopter?
He was like cleaning or something like that.
I thought he was fueling the helicopter, and they pushed him into the helicopter.
He was sitting in there from the get-go. Anyway,
well, you guys watched 2 different movies.
That's true.
We did.
Okay, Todd. So in your version of the movie, if you could go to 35 minutes and 45 seconds.
45.
Yeah, 35, 45, and that should be the start of this scene. And then now we're gonna make the we're gonna clarify things for Mark so he can understand what was going on.
This is the tape recorder.
This is the tape recorder. Let's just play it.
I'm just looking at right before that is the bar scene with the lady dancing.
Right. So just to our listeners, imagine about what you were about to hear, imagine this was not in the movie, and then you have to piece all this together from context clues. 45.
Okay.
Wow. That not only explains how we got here, that explains what is going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
in my
without-
version, there was none of that. The second half of the movie.
You don't know where you are or where you're going. Because, I mean, the premise of this movie is that these two guys rob a grocery store and try to drive away. The posse keeps hunting them. They find a farmhouse and take the people in the farmhouse hostage. Like, that's the whole story. The reason we're saying, well, it was confusing or whatever, because of the way this movie is, quote-unquote, edited, you'll have a shot of, like, them chasing down a dirt road, and you'll see a car in the middle of the road, like I said earlier, and then literally the next second, the car is rolling down the hill, and next second, a car is on fire, and you don't know what happened. There's been no collision. One of them, this lady in this insane red jogging suit, like an 80s Adidas red jogging suit, at some point just appears and looks down at a burning car. We've never seen her, and we never see her again. It was baffling. But, like, things are just so harshly edited, you don't know what's connected to what. Oh, it was crazy.
Okay, so that was one of the main differences between the two versions of the film. The other main difference was the ending of the film. They changed the ending.
Oh.
So in the original ending, what you get... so there was one important element that was removed from the original version. In the original version, when the mob... Spoilers. When the mob surrounds the helicopter...
And not like the mob, like Godfather, but like just an angry mob of
the
old
village,
men.
The
village,
torches and pitchforks. They surround the helicopter after it has run out of fuel, and it contains our bad guys, along with the helicopter pilot and the little girl hostage. And then the way it's edited, the mother of the little girl is the one who shoots first, and they don't make it explicit that they pulled the little girl out of the helicopter before the mob opens up.
And they add that in this super quick dialogue in the version that I looked, because again, you see, you know that they have this little girl in a helicopter, and they're holding her hostage, and they can't get off the ground because they say it's too heavy. All of this done in ADR, in a wide shot of the helicopter. And in the next scene, you see a close-up of the people in the helicopter with the angry mob holding their rifles right up next to it. That's about a 4-second shot. And then it cuts to black or something, and then all you hear is like the Bonnie and Clyde gunshot ending. But quick in there is like, we've got to get the girl out. And then like they immediately start shooting. So that girl is 100% dead. They did not get her out of that helicopter at all.
So in the version that you saw, Todd, they completely cut the girl's mother out of the mob. So it was less of a revenge story, because the girl who was almost raped and whose daughter was taken hostage, she was the one who like shot everyone first.
Really?
And they just removed that completely.
Her and the guy that looked like Fat Weird Al, who I was obsessed with, the other hostage.
I thought he looked like Pat.
He was very
He also looked like, do you guys remember the Head of the Class, the TV show in the early 90s with all the smart kids? There was the heavy-set computer nerd named Dennis, I think. And
sat at the back of the room.
Sat at the back of the room on top of his desk. He looked exactly like if he had a perm. He had the big
Yeah.
glasses on, and they were married in real life. They had the same last name in the credits. Those two hostages. The daughter was somebody else, but
That was a real couple.
that was a real couple.
I kept thinking that like she was a little bit out of his league.
She was way out of his league. She was like almost normal looking.
Holy
He
crap!
was a Stan Winston creation.
Oh,
I'm sorry, that was too sad. He did look like Weird Al, though, like a beefy Weird Al with the Weird Al the '80s curly hair and the big glasses.
Oh wow! So that's not all that they changed. They changed the very end, and actually they.
But if they cut that out, to make it short, okay.
Yeah, they also kind of changed the message of the movie because in Mark's version, at that point, the movie just kind of ends.
yeah.
But Todd, in your version, they cut back to scenes of town to sort of show that life goes on in Vernonia.
Showed logging.
And then they cut to a radio news broadcast, and they say that, another important detail. As the mob is opening fire on the helicopter, you see the police, the state police who have arrived, they just kind of drive away. They back up. They're like, our job here is done. There's nothing else for us.
What's done is done.
Yeah, and then the radio broadcast says that the suspects were last seen crossing the bridge into the state of Washington. This is no longer a matter in Oregon.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like washes our hands of the deal. And
nobody asked any more questions again.
And it's Washington's problem.
So, and these weren't locals that did this crime. These were people that were like passing through, I got the impression.
Now, that was the other interesting thing is what were they, going back...
What are these people?
Going back to the fact that I do not think this movie was satire, I think that Ray Etheridge was trying to say something about city folk, because the way they characterize the bad guys, several times in interviews and in the description of the movie, they keep referring to these guys as city folk. Coming to town, and then they also refer to, and there was that one scene where they call them, they're drunk and high.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And they're up to no good.
Yeah, that one guy was a drinker.
And then the one guy had an earring, and then the other guy was the only guy in the movie with a beard. And
But these two robbers were also like complete morons, and they seemed like hicks to me. They were dressed, they were talking dumb. Like, I didn't get the, like, we're slick. Like, they never had a plan to do anything. When they rob, they get away from the grocery store, and they get chased down this street, and they crash in this big, exciting chase sequence where they crash to the two cars that are trying to make a barricade. After they crash through this barricade, and those cars, of course, explode, they stop their car.
High
five out the window like they're Dukes of Hazzard. Like, wave at the people that they're supposed to be escaping from until they're getting shot at again, and then very reluctantly, like, get back in. Like, do they have a plan? Did I miss that?
No.
And then they're like, I think we'll get away. And I'm like, you 100% won't. You're on a road that goes nowhere, on a one-lane dirt road in the middle of the forest. Of course you're not got away.
Oh, their plan at that point, I think, was they had a getaway car stash. And they were trying, because they show that scene at the very beginning of the movie, they're stashing their getaway car.
Oh, I thought they were just abandoning whatever car and stealing a new one. But that would make sense because at some point in another hard cut, they're going 45 miles per hour on the street, and then suddenly their car is teetering off a cliff. And then they they get out and slam the door, which is supposed to be the thing that makes it go tipping. But by that point, you see the car rolling down perpendicular to how it was like.
Right.
It was going front end over the thing, and then suddenly it's like sideways rolling down the hill, and then of course explodes.
The continuity department had their hands full. They were busy that day.
With every single other job of doing this movie. Oh, wow.
The one thing that you did not get to see, Todd, that I do think Mark benefited from was the most definitely not gay car wash scene.
I didn't see.
The car wash scene isn't in the short?
No. They steal a car from, I think, car washers, and I saw them mentioned in the behind the scenes, but that scene is gone, replaced by the exposition.
It was so weird. There were two guys just washing cars in a parking lot. There wasn't like a car wash as such. And they're dancing, they're loving it, they go listen to music. The boombox is literally on the car that they're washing. They've sat it on the hood, and they're washing around the boombox. And then a slick, Mr. Hollywood, or they call him like Pretty Boy, comes up, and he's got his car, which is the multicolored psychedelic one,
Right.
and he catches his view in the reflection of the window, and starts doing his hair, and then
That
and
is
then the two strangers come up and steal the car,
right.
and he runs after them.
That
They're
part,
stealing my car.
that little tiny part is was in my version. What's shocking about that is not only does that seem wildly out of place, but I believe those two car washers were crew members.
They are
according
crew
to
members.
the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were just those guys around town. They knew they could entertain. Like that's the dude
No, one
that
was
like caters or,
right,
or
one-
whatever.
Exactly.
Wow, that's insane.
I just remembered something funny that I read about one of the two main bad guys. His career, he went on to be the caterer.
It's the final scene as we've
She's
been
so
watching.
normal looking.
You didn't get to see this, Todd.
Oh,
This is the.
this is
the
her
final,
brave
so the
stand-up.
cops are leaving.
that cop car is amazing because it's an all-white car with a tiny little magnetic sign that says police. Like Helvetica.
And so she commences shooting.
Why would they cut that out? She's the hero. At least her gun has blanks in it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so
And
interesting.
everybody
That
else shoots.
really changes the movie.
Yeah.
Huh. And to edit down a movie to 58 minutes is a bizarre choice. Like, especially, like, if this was a part of a compilation or, like, a anthology or something like that, that would be...
Believe me, though, it feels much better after 58 minutes. Much.
And like I said,
I'm going to rewatch it.
it's not a brisk 58 minutes either. It's like The Last Jedi, how you can cut out, like, the middle third and still feel like you've seen a good movie.
So one thing that I thought was really interesting about one of the two main bad guys in this film, he went on to be a big caterer in Hollywood, and he was like the head chef on Hannah Montana.
Oh, really?
So I just kept picturing the bad guy like serving food to Miley Cyrus.
An 11-year-old Miley Cyrus. So there was one part, and I couldn't for the life of me find the clip from the Muppet movie. So from the Muppet movie, they go to buy the car at the beginning from Milton Berle, the car dealership, and they ask the big, huge brown monster, whose name is Mr. Sweetums.
Oh, Sweetums.
Yeah, that I learned. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then they ask him or whatever, and then they're like, I guess he doesn't want to come, and they drive away. Hey! He ends up running after. So that, I couldn't find a clip of that, but here's a clip from our movie where someone gets their car stolen and runs after them. No, that is exactly Mr. Sweetums. I remember his big flapping lip. Hey!
Oh, that's
Oh
funny.
my gosh, I would have loved to have been there for that ADR session, trying to cram this entire movie into an hour and a
Because
half.
they already spent all their money.
Yeah, and they're paying by the hour to be at a recording studio.
While we're talking about ADR, can you try and go to like
You were good with the time last time.
9 minutes?
It's like converting to Fahrenheit to Celsius.
Let's try 9 minutes and 35 seconds.
All right. What will we find around there?
We're looking for one of those scenes where one of our main bad guys hums and sings to himself.
They could just play the entire movie because there is a lot of that. Is this in the car or is this somewhere else?
I don't know. I didn't write it down.
Well, let's listen to some of the fantastic dialogue we get in the car.
Yeah.
I just imagine the flop sweat of trying to record this whole thing and just filling that time and
That one bad guy does Mark's old man atonal humming constantly in this movie.
I claim that as well. I think he does it when he walks up. I'm going to find at the very beginning when they come up to rob the store.
It's so
They
annoying.
walk across the street, so they're parking here. This music is insane. So they're walking across the street to rob the place.
Oh, it's a whistle that time.
It's, anyway. Oh, this also made me nostalgic for the gas caps that went underneath the license plate in the old cars.
Oh,
They had like that springlet. I was like, oh,
that was cool.
Back when you rear-ended somebody, and no wonder all their cars exploded.
It was the 80s.
What else about this movie?
Before we get into the making of, which we're going to have to get into, let's revisit Mr. Ray Etheridge and talk about what he followed this movie up with. Well, Mark, why don't you tell us what his follow-up to the Vernonia... Okay, wait. Before we say what his follow-up was, we should say that after this movie, he left Oregon never to return.
In shame.
He moved to
Los Angeles?
Miami, Florida.
Okay.
You know, the film capital of the United States.
Yes. He moved to Miami, Florida, and like never to come back. And it's almost like he was run out of town or something.
Oh.
You bring shame! He's probably listening. He probably has a good vote for Vernonia Incident.
So, this next film was filmed in Florida, and it's titled Fart, the movie. But it's
Does it stand for something?
well, the title makes it look like that. It's F.A.R.T. But here's the summary. Russell has two passions: watching television and farting.
Oh my gosh.
He also loves Heather. Heather hates farting.
Oh my gosh.
The eternal triangle. One day she warns him, if they ever allow farting on television, you'll never leave the house. One evening, he goes to sleep in front of the TV, and it happens.
This is not real.
Virtually everything on TV is fart-related, from sitcoms and commercials to newscasts and dramas.
Did my buddy Colin write this movie?
Yes.
What could that even be?
So I've seen the trailer, and it's
Should we
just
play the trailer?
Shocking.
We probably should play it.
Can I find it on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how is this thing?
That is.
That
It's beguiling.
But that's not where he stopped. Like that, I
that's-
figured walking in until we started recording, I figured this was his one thing. But he has been
ever since 2003, he's had 4 or 5 projects a year, just cranking these things out, and obviously it's quantity over quality.
So I wonder if he just makes deals with distribution companies that just put out a bunch of cheap stuff and keeps cranking them out.
I mean, the names of some of these things: Bigfoot and Other Adventures, The Horse Race, The Tattletale Corpse, Zombie Drug Lord, The Day of Darkness in Hillbilly County.
Wow. So it's just a best of the worst list.
I'm gonna play the fart trailer.
Well, is this it?
No, that's the whole
Oh,
movie.
is this 2002's Fart the
Nope,
movie?
that's a
no,
different-
it's a different
Two-
one. Taken from my VHS copy.
Yeah.
I don't bother.
I typed in
Did you
Fart the movie Etheridge is what I typed in.
There's a surprising amount of competitors here.
Fart the movie trailer?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the world.
Okay, before, sorry, just
Say it.
interrupt right away. That was just a yellow screen with a Comic Sans with fart in Comic Sans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what?
Go on.
Okay, we're only halfway through this.
You can do
Can
it.
you tell us what the plot is?
This is all shot on video too.
Yeah, that's the trailer.
Now, had he not moved away, that would have been a Portland
Like
Avenue
the movies.
film.
I guess we finally have something to be thankful for Ray Etheridge. Yeah, Golden West Films. That's his film company. And whoever Migdalia Etheridge is listed as a producer of this one. Her name I didn't see in this one, unless I just missed it. The sister's name was Zonia.
No, I think it is.
Migdalia is his wife.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That is insane.
So the other thing that Ray does with video now is he makes these like compilation videos and movie quizzes out of public domain footage, like the monster quiz with Dracula and stuff. So he made one that I think is worth bringing up for Mark's curiosity, called "I Know a Riddle."
Is this a video?
Yes. Go to Amazon and type in dinosaurs, monsters, and riddles.
All right.
And
Oh my gosh, there's more comics.
and
That
watch
cover
the
is
trailer.
atrocious. All
Watch
right.
the trailer.
Okay. You can rent this movie for $2.99. Is that him?
That's him.
It's just him sitting on his couch
Yeah.
with a TV with antennas sticking out of it. Is this just all Mark jokes?
I think that voice was Migdalia.
Wow, that doesn't make any sense. And then there's just public domain footage.
It's
of...
35 minutes of Mark jokes starring Uncle Ray and their ADR machine.
That is ridiculous.
Did you catch that voice? It was recorded in the submarine.
Oh, you're right. He must have had extra time that
Uncle
day.
Ray.
Uncle
Used-
Ray.
Used the same set of recording equipment as from.
That's what I loved about that clip we played earlier with all the exposition was just like clearly his voice with just bad filters run through it. Wow, well he is a hustler, according to his IMDb.
Yeah, he's busy.
I mean, that's like Roger Corman levels of
Yes.
output that he's doing.
This is like the Tommy Wiseau of
Of Roger Corman
Corman.
of Florida.
Formerly of.
Oh, there was a great shot when they're doing the shootout at the farmhouse. At the end, they do these shots of the two robbers, and they've got some squibs around them with some bad walling. And then there's this shot of this plain white wall with, right in the middle, a framed picture of kittens. And that's all, a huge
Yes.
white wall. And you see, bang, a gunshot to the left of kittens. Bang, a gunshot to the right. Bang! It hits the kitten picture and it falls to the ground.
I loved that moment.
I laughed so hard. That was so comic. That was done for comedy. The rest of this movie, that's insane that he's starting to say, oh, it's a social commentary, said the man who made Fart the movie. That's incredible.
I think what we need to do is have a revival screening of this film here in Portland and fly him out to introduce it.
In his helicopter. The helicopter that was...
Okay, so I apparently in the making of,
Which
they,
I enjoyed more actually than the
The
movie.
movie.
I enjoyed the making of a lot more.
but they went through the plot. They described what the plot was.
And I didn't have to watch it.
I liked at least the first half of the making of
Yeah, the second
when
one.
there was narration.
They say in the making of that the helicopter was part of the Magnum PI opening, but I rewatched the Magnum PI opening. It's definitely not in it, but I think it might have been used to film parts of it.
No. I think it was the helicopter pilot was the pilot for Magnum PI. I don't think it was the actual helicopter.
They made it sound, from what I remember, it said the helicopter also made an appearance in the opening of Magnum PI.
Yeah,
Maybe it was just in the background somewhere.
And so I looked up the tail number of that helicopter, and it's still in service. It's in the Northeast. You can actually replay flights that it's taken in the last few years.
You couldn't trace it back this far, though, could you? Like you
No.
couldn't see.
No.
That would be amazing to see the flight glass from that day.
Totally.
Because they rented it for one day, they said, and just did all their shots.
This house.
$400 an hour.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot of money.
That was all of the helicopter scenes. Most of them were filmed on videotape. For whatever reason, I don't know.
They made a mention that the camera that went to the helicopter was battery operated. They made a big deal. So I mean, back then, getting power to, so that's probably why the shots look so different. It's because it was probably video, a video camera as opposed to the film camera that they had.
Well, see, if it was Tommy Wiseau doing it, they would have just had one of each.
The whole time them together. So, yeah. I did like in the making of, they're like, this camera has history. For years, it was used at whatever. It's like, it came out of retirement. I'm like, it was the only camera you could afford. That's not like, we came out of retirement to
want that camera.
Yeah.
He probably stole it when he was still working there.
He put a dummy camera in its place and just took that every night.
Ferris Bueller style.
I did enjoy the smoke bombs that were just soup cans.
Soup cans that said tear gas with like duct tape.
Tear gas.
So there was a. Do you have the making of available, Todd?
Yeah.
There is a quote that just sort of sums up the entire movie in that documentary. So the documentary itself, let's talk. Why does it exist? Like we're talking Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson level of documentation.
Yeah.
For this film,
I would guess he did it to use as a sales thing. Look, here's the movie we made. Here's a little package I sent out to distributors.
The narrated segment that goes through the plots and everything is 40 minutes long. Like it's not a trivial sizzle reel.
Right.
You know, it is a detailed
plot analysis.
Like they talk about the car that was used for all of the interior car shots for every single car. There was one police car for the 3 police cars that were shown in the movie. Those kind of things. I don't think it was a sizzle reel kind of thing.
No, I think that he was just trying to make more money and see if he could get 2 films out of 1.
Oh,
I could make the real film, and then I could make the making of and sell them separately.
Like maybe he thought it was or to sell like to local media or something to run.
Yeah, and remember that this
was about a half hour long.
The height of video rental, commoditization, and so just looking for another thing to put on the shelf to rent.
That's true. So what point did you want me to look up, Ryan?
Oh, 2 minutes and 15 seconds, and this sort of sums up the whole film.
Just that? Okay.
Maybe it was just before. Maybe let's try 2:10. Not really, it was the hubcaps. That's what this movie is really about.
No, they're still talking about the police car.
Police car.
Is it right at the beginning?
I
tried looking for that earlier because you flagged that earlier. But yeah, even this documentary, a Golden Lust Films presentation is this documentary.
And they describe it as, compared to country justice, life in prison looks pretty good, but you can't get there from here.
Well, oh yeah, there's a nice close-up of the boom operator that apparently it was just plugged into nothing. They forgot the extension cord. Don't tell him. He's been holding that up there all day. Yeah, look at that.
That's one of the car wash people.
Oh, funny. Maybe it got wet during the car wash scene. It was next to the radio on the hood of the car.
My favorite thing that I learned from watching the documentary was that during filming, when they were blowing up one of the cars, the electrical wires melted and the car horn got stuck on.
Yep.
So they just shot it
They
a couple
shot
times
it.
until
They shot the battery until it
There was
went away.
there was one special effect I thought was really cool in one of the beginning. I think it was one of the chase down the road. They're firing. The bad guys are firing at the car that's following behind them, and bullets hit the windshield. And I was like, oh my gosh, those are real bullets hitting the real windshield. And they did it well enough in the back behind the scenes thing. It's a guy sitting inside the car and shooting actual bullets. They just framed it where you only see the windshield. It was super effective. I still was afraid for that guy in the car firing a gun, but that was a really a neat little effect that they pulled off.
Yeah, which is funny because the bullets were going the opposite direction that they should have been going.
Yeah, but it worked out. It looked really good.
Yeah.
As I say, they get with these soup can smoke bombs. The posse at the end, in order to drive out the bad guys from the house, they just throw all the tear gas inside with the family, the hostage family, still inside.
Yeah. And there are multiple times that they shoot into the house, knowing that the family is in the house.
So the main leader of the posse shoots at he shoots the tire out of the car that the bad guys are planning to escape with, but they've got the hostage little girl at gunpoint, and he fires at them. Like,
that's country justice.
And he's like, well, good thing that went okay.
And then they go, so they shoot at the tire, so the bad guys have to go back inside with the girl. And the mom and dad, who are tied, their hands are at least tied, they were just simply looking out the window, looking to watch their daughter being kidnapped. And the bad guys come back in again and say, that's it, I've had enough of you two. And I'm like, they didn't do anything. They weren't trying to escape. They were just... It's crazy. Anything else about this movie? Where can people find it?
They can easily find this movie. Ray Etheridge has made that possible.
Oh, wow.
You can, from the official fan website, you can order a DVD version.
Nice.
You can order a DVD print on demand from Amazon Prime.
Print on demand. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
when they did that. Just do
a lot of movies they do it.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then you can buy. This is what I think Mark did.
Yep.
Buy the download.
Yep. You can download.
And that was
and
the
you get a
extended
special,
cut then.
That's the extended cut.
But it did not come with the shortened.
Did not.
I would recommend hunting down the earlier.
Does Movie Madness have this? I thought
They
it was
do.
Okay.
They do. Yeah. I would recommend watching the short version, if at all possible. If you put it in and it says Redneck Revenge, you know that is correct.
Yeah. What were all the other titles again?
Vernonia Incident, Revenge of the Rednecks, Lynch Mob Vigilantes, Redneck Country Justice, Redneck Revenge, Country Justice in Oregon.
In Oregon. That's
awesome.
like specifically for a Google search.
He was SEO before SEO was cool.
All right, so you would recommend going to see this movie, both of you, to search it out. Obviously, if you haven't figured it out at this point,
it's campy.
Yeah,
it's
a poorly done bad movie,
right?
But enjoyable.
I think this movie has the potential in the right setting to be like The Room. I could see like interactive elements.
Yeah.
It needs its moment.
And I didn't love it. I was on board for maybe the first 20 minutes. and then I just kind of slowly fell off the train. It got me a little bit more at the end, but
The more I
I
found
didn't
out,
love it as much as you guys did.
the more I found out about Ray Etheridge, the more I loved it.
That's true, because once the credits started and I started seeing all the Etheridge people involved, and when I saw that dancing lady was his sister, I lost my mind. So that pulled me back in.
That's awesome.
Just one other fun fact I have to share. In pulling any information about this movie, there's not a lot out there, but I came across Ray's old GeoCities website that is somehow still in existence.
Wow.
At least partly in existence. And he's got all these amazing pages, one for like each video he had done up until the point he was keeping his GeoCities site. And here's a page for I Know a Riddle. And you can, here it is, it was $9.98 on VHS plus $2.50 shipping and handling. I also came across his resume, and it's got his personal phone number and address.
Is it his resume for filmmaking, or does he have another career that he was just posting his resume on GeoCities for?
What's the objective?
Objective. A career makeover into a full-time long-term staff position with a company that offers a training program, a good benefits package, and a chance for growth within the company.
I will do
Nice and
anything.
generic, yeah. All right.
Employment. To test the waters in other types of jobs, I have worked briefly in shipping and receiving at the new Dolphin Mall for Brooks Brothers.
Yeah, so
Okay,
he
fair
was.
enough. Just general work. Artists need to have other forms of income, as I know.
Here we go. Other skills, I sell collectibles on the internet, such as celebrity autographs, vintage movie posters, vinyl LP records,
Oh,
videos,
nice.
and 16mm movie film.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
I wonder if we can get the actual film used to make the Vernonia Incident. It is surprising that, so when you first told me about Vernonia, you told me about that mill. It's an
Mhm.
abandoned mill or
Yep.
whatever. I still haven't seen it because the one time I went to town, there was a big festival there, and I ended up not
Right.
stopping. But that was not in this movie,
I know.
which is surprising because
That would
that's
have been
like,
a great shootout location.
yeah,
Yeah,
huh. Do we know where the house was? I mean, I'm sure it was outside town somewhere.
I didn't. I wasn't.
I can try to look at. They do mention an address in the movie that I'll look up later to see if they were
Oh.
just actually using actual road names.
We
and
do get some nice aerial shots of the farmhouse, so you could like look for locations.
look for the one with all the craters in the lawn.
And I
for
think
all
it's
the
next to a lake
bombs.
or a pond or something.
I'll have to look that up. I'll find it like that one house I found from
Oh, right.
Foxfire. No, it wasn't Foxfire. It was The Last Innocent
Oh.
Man.
And
had
Homer
it-
and Eddie.
And Homer and Eddie. I found houses in the greater Portland area just from one angle of their house in a movie.
You could be a Google Maps private eye.
Well, awesome. It was. I did enjoy it. I didn't love it as much as I was hoping to, but it is pretty insane and pretty fun to watch, especially if you're in obviously the B movies and cheaper movies that turn out like this. But it was pretty fun. Any last words?
If you live in Oregon, it's worth seeing.
Or visiting Vernonia?
Or
You go to Vernonia and then watch it there.
Exactly.
I don't know if they have copies of it still in the general store. At their Granger or Grange or whatever.
Grange Hall.
Or T-shirts. I survived the Vernonia incident.
That would be great. I survived the Vernonia incident. I'm going to pitch that to them. Well, that brings us to the end of another Portland at the Movies. Special thanks to Fun Employment Radio, who this can be heard on. They're doing lots of cool things, lots of live events and other things. So go check them out at Fun Employment Radio. Mark, where else can you hear us if they want to hear more of us?
Each week we record the Mark and Todd cast, starring myself as Mark and you as Todd, and
Shocking casting.
shocking casting.
Try swapping that one time.
And each week we talk about a science topic and something about Portland, and Brian, the Unipiper kid, makes an appearance and tells us about things that are going on around Portland, and it's a fun show.
Yes, so that's at markandtoddcast.com. My train of thought just went off the rails there. Brian, which you can find at theunipiper.com for all your Unipiper needs. There will be one less Mark and Toddcast a month, because what are we doing each month now, Brian?
We're doing a brand new video project that we are calling Binsworthy. It's a brand new web series, and if you stay tuned right here at Portland at the Movies, we'll be posting all of the new episodes right here. We go essentially dumpster diving in the thrift store outlet bins and see what kind of crazy treasures that we can unearth and then talk about.
Bring them back for a little roundtable discussion. And right now, there's 3 episodes up on YouTube. You can either find them at the Portland at the Movies page. There's a little playlist, or you can go to the Binsworthy YouTube page. Either one works. Portland at the Movies or Bins. It's BINS, which is what they call the Goodwill outlet bins. It's a really fun show. It's a video project, and it's really great. There are 3 episodes up now, and we will be doing one of those a month mixed in with Portland at the Movies and the Mark and Podcast. So if people wanted to support us, Brian, what could they do?
We would love it if you would smash that like button and subscribe. And be sure to click the little...
We have to do that now that we're YouTubers.
I feel dirty. But most helpful would be if you head over to our Patreon page, which is at patreon.com/Portland at the Movies, and you can give any little bit helps. We have to constantly upgrade our video equipment, and we're buying new movies and tracking down these rare things, and who knows, maybe we'll need to pay and fly Ray out here for the showing of Vernonia Incident one of these days.
Live. Awesome. Well, I'm going to play whatever plays over the final credits of this movie on the way out, and I'm just noticing that one man is credited to worker rubbing car. So that must be that one guy doing that one thing. All right. So thank you guys for listening. Find more at portlandatthemovies.com, also on Facebook. And don't forget, go check out Binsworthy on YouTube. It's our great new video series at Binsworthy YouTube page or at Portland at the Movies page on YouTube. We will see you guys later. It's the only downbeat music in the entire movie.
Right. Sounds like it could be from The Last Innocent Man.
It really does.
Nope. It's like watching paint dry.
Is this in the extended version too?
As far as I know.
Original music by Oscar Estrada.
There it goes.
I knew it.
Oh, that takes me right back to Windows 3.1.